What's up, world? It's your boy, Mike Muse, from an episode of the Mike Muse Show. I am so excited to be in conversation with my next guest, Omari Hardwick. He is a return visitor to the Mike Muse Show, and you guys may or may not recall, Omari and I had such a great conversation the last time that we had to cut the interview short, and then we had to pick right back up again because we didn't talk about anything that he was there to talk about, which was promote a movie. But I promise you, audience, I'm going to do my best to talk to Omari about exactly what he's here for today. And that is for his new spoken word album, 2540 Days, which is coming out today. Is today the 24th?
Comes out tomorrow. Today? Is it tomorrow?
Tomorrow? When is the 24th? I don't know.
I'm always off on days to dates. I think today's Thursday the 23rd.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah. So it's out now. Make sure you check it out. I've had the chance to preview it, and I have lots of questions that came to mind that I was listening to these tracks. Wow. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. Omari Hardwick, what's happening, sir?
What's happening? And let me say what's happening to the culture, to the people, ladies and gentlemen.
Dude, so like our last conversation, I had got the chance to know you, and I got the chance to see how layered that you really are, and how much of an artist that you are besides just the confines of just being an actor. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that going in, but I don't think it prepared me for the spoken word album that you have. A part of me wants to ask you, was it autobiographical?
Autobiographical.
Yeah, the conjugation. Thank you for the conjugation. Because in part, I felt like it was storytelling. Your use of metaphors are insane. And a lot of it felt very personal. And so I was just curious about that.
Yeah. That's a great leading question. And it's ironic that you ask me, Mike, versus any R&B singer or hip hop artist whom you may interview, because in reality, I think maybe this is the accentuation of what makes poetry so cool. Cool is one of those underrated words, and I don't mean it in a very ostentatious boasting way, but different. You know what I mean? Like a MC listening to my work, and then once learning that I actually can rap as well, they still may go, oh, so poetic. And when I was growing up, Mike, in my mind, it was like, well, how are you an MC and not poetic? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I think because, I don't know if it makes sense. I'm saying, does it make sense that I asked it? And it's because I was raised in hip hop. But if you're raised in hip hop while being a poet, if you're a football player, but also play basketball, if you're an actor, but also does music, then you are but what you are. So it's a little confusing the older you get when people can't negotiate the two, and they go, how are you doing this and that? And more so, it is the limitations of it is our beautifully large people, but because we've been fragmented into this limited thing or person, instead of being able to not grab we've been able to look at it from the left and the right and go, that person's good on the left at that person on the right is good at that, but we've never sort of brought them together and gone, oh, that person is just a sum, they're a total of their sum parts. And so I think for me as a hip hop head, which I absolutely was a freaking hip hop head and a break dancer and the whole thing, when I would listen to an MC, I realized that beat wasn't first for me, Mike. Lyrics were first. And really that's what you got to ask people. Like, if you watch Power, were you salty sweets or were you sweet sweets? Were you wine? Were you whiskey while watching Power parties or whatever TV show you binge on? So for me, I was, if lyricism is salty, like the beat is sweet because it's easy. It's easy. It'll give you cavities, but that salt, man, it goes in those wounds and you really feel it. And so I was always a lot more about the content and what was being stated. And so I think it's all autobiographical, if not just me, but if you're asking an R&B singer and an MC who really, really is truthful to their thing. Isn't Nas coming out of Queensbridge Project autobiographical? Isn't Biggie Smalls rocking the way he was autobiographical? Isn't Tupac, who had to learn how to rap, he's a poet. Tupac Amaru Shakur is first a poet. Didn't he have to figure out how to rap? But in doing so, didn't he still spit his truth from whence he had come? So I think for me, I'm in that. I ain't at all trying to compare myself to those cats, but I understand that lyrically I'm quite gifted. And God put a big ass pin in mama's womb. I'm not confused by it. So I imagine that it's all autobiographical. And even if Courtney and Curtis and the good people at Stars were behind Ghost, I was the person asked to wear him as a coat. So when I'm wearing him as a coat, it's going to be confusing for legions of fans for years to go, was it Omari? Was it Ghost? Was it Ghost? Was it Omari? It's always an amalgamation of the two. So it's my lyricism and my storytelling meets my shit, Mike, my pain, my joys, my love, my heartache, my hurt. I mean, it's the way in my mind, it's the way I negotiate acting. It's people going, he's a deep actor, but look what's underneath it. I'm writing about what I feel. And so I think they all go together. And I think it was a hard turn for me, bro, meaning an aha moment for me, Mike, was me going, in acting, I am poet meets athlete. As a poet, I am actor meets athlete. As an athlete, I am actor meets poet. I think all the things go together. And that's why even on my IG, I just put artist, because I mean, athletics are art as well. So I think I've always been about the lyricism, but equally, I always understood that to touch people, man, is biographical. I told my daughter was writing something the other day and she put mother, and I said, take mother out. I said, everybody has a mother. I said, what do you call your mother? She said, mama. I said, put mama. You got to draw people in. Don't put mother. Everybody's got a mother. Put what you call your mother. And so she's 9 years old, not quite, 8 in a couple weeks, she'll be 9. But Mike, my whole objective is always to bring people to me. Otherwise, why am I here? We are in the business of servitude. You are serving me by asking me questions, and I'm serving you back by answering. So in my mind, it's like, you got to serve people. You got to give them a little bit of who you are, maybe to give them permission to tell who they are.
I think it's interesting. What that was beautifully stated. There's a lot to unpack there in your statement that you just gave. I think it's interesting you keep invoking your mother and your mom. You said your mom gave you a big pen. I think what drew me into asking the question was autobiographical. There's a line in one of your tracks where you say your mother's breast when breastfeeding was a utopian place for you, a place of peace and a place of refuge. And so I think for me, that kind of what drew me in so quickly to the project is and asking the questions of what's is personal for you.
It's a freaking great question. It's a great question.
Yeah, because an R&B singer, you can always tell when an R&B singer actually wrote their lyrics and when it was written for them.
Can you tell?
And when I can.
Okay.
Let me be clear, it's usually after the second project, right? If it's a new artist who I don't know, then I have to go by face value of what you present to me.
Great point.
But after the second album, I got the chance to know the artist, engage with them, see how they move on social media or in public, and then I can say, that doesn't seem to fit what you're doing, or actually why it fits what you do, right? I think that's why, and that's why I love Neil so much. He's so conversational in his lyrics, the raps. I love his songwriting ability.
And he's so close. He's so close to me. So that's ironic.
Yeah,
I'll give you some tidbits I won't give anybody else. My writing started with Neil, bro.
Whoa.
I mean, my writing started at 11 years old, but after getting cut from the NFL and finding my way on New York theater, once I moved to LA, I was with this beautiful brother named Bert, and Bert Harris was a basketball player at USC. Always looked like a football player, but he played at USC. And we met at the YMCA playing ball. Same spot Kevin Hart was always at. Same spot from Denzel to Clooney to Leo, the local Hollywood YMCA. And Bert Harris and I would get together, and he would say, because he learned I was musical way back. I'm living in South Central, bro, and he would learn how musical I was because nobody knew me as an actor. So poets and musicians, Jill Scott to Talib to Mos Def, these guys know me musically. So they're probably laughing when fans go, yo, what the hell is, it's the younger people that don't know me musically. But the older heads all know me musically. So PK was my roommate in South Central, and PK married to my first agent. He was lyrical as well. He was musical as well. Between he and Bert Harris, his name is PK Carter. Between PK Carter and Bert Harris, they both led me to studios. PK took me to meet Dub C, and then that world started. That's when I met Mike Concepcion and everybody else, and Mike even was like, music, do music. This is the beginnings of me at 25, 200 pounds fresh off a football field. And then Bert Harris said, come to the studio with me one day, and there's Neil. There's a young Neil. And I remember writing with Neil in sessions and just writing and being around him. And I gotta be honest, the stuff that Bert produced with him, that they have another guy that was producing with them who was also producing, who was kind of over Neo. He was the manager. That stuff the world hasn't heard, but bro, I heard it. And so speaking of autobiographical, like some people got stuff in the freaking archives or in the kennels of their closet that the world hasn't known. But music for me, Mike, was so freaking early that the hesitation at putting it out was the confusion of me getting pushback when I would put it out, or trying to, because it was first for me. So it's like delivering a baby that's yours, and then people go, I don't want that baby. That baby's ugly as shit. You grabbed it, it's your baby. So you grab the baby and you run the other way. So Mike, honestly, that's what's taken me so long, is the rejection of a talented actor as a musical talent as well. I'm like, I'm only doing this to give Black people permission to look in the mirror and go, you could be great at whatever you're great at. It's the only reason I'm doing it.
I was literally, Omari, about to say, because you finally given yourself permission to do it. I literally was about to say that.
Took me long enough.
And I was thinking about, as you were talking, in your first response, you know, just listening to you navigate your thoughts in terms of how you're going to arrive, you know, at this answer. What I enjoyed is I actually saw your thought in action. And it's this whole wrestling of, and I'm the same way. Like, where do I fit in? You know, I can be this, and I'm also that, right? I'm not the guy you can define as a box. Like, I'm an industrial engineering with nuclear chemical research background, right? But here I am talking with you about.
Which I never forget. You told me right away. I remember you telling me, and I thought about Jeffrey Wright. And as you know, Jeffrey Wright was an engineer.
Exactly.
People don't realize it. Like, Big Daddy Kane told me one day. He said, "Oh, you know, with all that sexy candor he could create, with the incomparable nature and essence of Big Daddy Kane, with that tone that only he has." He looked at me and he said, "Oh, genius is to not be understood. Genius is to not be understood." And the problem was, Mike, I'm not making myself that bounty of word. I'm not making myself that. And it's still very difficult for me to do that. My pops actually was the pen. Mom was not a pen. My pop was a poet. But I think what it is that Mom she birthed it. And I think for me, and he was more affectionate. My mom was not the affectionate one, but my pops was more affectionate, which as a Black man, bro, that's priceless. And he was a grown ass alpha male. He's 6'2". He looks like Denzel. He's massive. And he was affectionate. So the fans can say, there's Omari. There's a lot of why I'm okay. It doesn't matter.
Oh, that's beautiful.
I kissed Beyonce on the cheek, and the stutter of whatever became a thing because it was a double accident kiss. But in reality, I kissed 50 Cent in front of 20 million people on Good Morning America. Like, I'm me. And I don't really give two Fs. I'm a be me. I'm a die me. This is who I am. Some people hate it. Some people love it. There's people still wondering. But that I never apologized for. What I was apologizing for was putting out all the things that come from me. Me walking in the room, I never turn around. But me bringing the things that come with me into a room, sometimes I was bringing those back and going. So when I bring up Mom a lot in the poetry or in the spoken word or even in the music, whether it be hip hop or R&B, a lot of times it's just because I want women to understand that we go as far as y'all allow us to go. That's it. They're the smarter gender, the brighter, the stronger gender. I'm always reminded my mom's pops was massive, but you are downplaying how big you are. And so I think I associate my bigness more with her than she associates my bigness with her. I think she goes, he's big, but that ain't connected to me. And it's me going, Ma, it's gotta be. It's gotta be. So it's a little bit of giving her, you know, some love when I drop her name a lot in the stuff, because really Pops gave me permission to be big. She knew I'd be big, but he gave the better permission for it.
But see, you needed your dad to give you permission to love on your mom in that capacity to highlight, uplift her, right? Because if there's a dynamic of a son, it's expected. It's father-son dynamic. It's always like mother-daughter dynamic,
it's
right?
Truly that.
Your father gave you permission to be the mama's boy, meaning to uplift your mom and give her the credit for being like who you are, right? That's the affectionate from your dad that allowed you to be secure in who you are as self, to uplift your mom and put her as the one who's responsible for the bigness of you. I think
it was an interesting mix. Were you close to your pops?
I was. I grew up in a 2-parent household, and I am exactly 50-50 of my parents. My dad is a very
half child, right? The half child. The half child is usually pretty successful because you're getting a little bit of. The combo kid is what I call it, the combo kid.
Yep, I'm a combo kid. My dad can be very introvert. He can be silent, but his strength is in his silence and always wondering what he's thinking. My dad can shift a room just by the stillness of him. And then when he speaks, you listen and is commanding. My mother is, but he's watching, observing. So I kind of get that from him. My mother is this very like vivacious, big personality. She walks into a room and everyone knows it. She's unafraid. We're going down the middle of the aisle in church in a bright pink dress and sit behind the first lady, like a half hour late. You know what I mean? And so
that part.
The life of the party, right? And so I kind of get the combo, as you said, from there.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I'll get around people and I ask them that, you know what I mean? Like Spike Lee said on movie one, me and Mackie, Malik Shrouder, Ben Crowley, Ken LeWing, we all were there, and Darius Love, and Spike Lee said, I always know in a casting session whether somebody's close to their pops or not, or whether they had a pops in their life. I go, what? Yeah. He goes, always, in a nanosecond. And I remember finding security in Big Daddy Kane, and I'm like, God, he's so secure, and I love that about Kane. He has meant a lot to me, and has Snoop, but and Clef as well. But those old heads, Rakim, I'm very close to too, but I remember getting around Kane and I started to look at I started to look at him in a way where it made me say, you close to your pops? He's like, bro, everything. I said, there's a permission to love on fellow man when that, you know, and I mean that.
I was just about to say that.
Like a gender. Yes. I don't mean man as in man/woman, but gender-wise, there's a permission to love on men when you have that. It's cool.
Bruh,
especially like, black men, we need it.
Audience, this is why Omari and I had like a 3-hour conversation last time on air. Because Omari, that's exactly what I talk about. I just talk about the fact of like the importance of black men loving black men and loving on and showing affection, and how that can be healing. We haven't healed for so many reasons, for all the things, because that we've never seen permission of a black man to love on a black man.
And the album was really that, Mike. The album was permission. The album was permission to the world for me, to the culture. So I'm not a daddy of the world. I'm not a daddy of the culture. I'm a daddy called Papa to November Brave. But I am absolutely a permission giver by nature. Malcolm X was giving permission. Baldwin was giving permission. You know, Muhammad Ali, Dr. King, there was some people, John Lewis, my God, he was giving permission. And so I'm a permission giver. I am, which means that you're a leader. Like the new fan, the younger fan is mad because certain people are peg leaders. You and I were raised in a world of going, leader is leader. You can't get mad at who was created to be a leader. And a leader is someone that can say, I got y'all. I'm not better than any of you, but I got you. We'll get in this house. And once we get in, I'll give y'all permission to go find whatever you want to in all the rooms in the house. So this album for me is sort of permission, bro. It's kind of like black people, brown people, red people, even yellow people. And then of course, never forgetting the white people who are activists for us and for the cause. They want us to be better. This album and my autobiographical reality of it, to your point, this is a way that y'all can say, hey man, maybe I should start writing. I wanted the album to make people pick up a pen and go, I got some shit I need to get out. Like do that. You know, that's what I do with these young poets. I just want them to get stuff out. It's healthier.
Omari, this is why I like you and why I'm always going to root for you, because you have a platform and you're in a position and you actually accept the position that you have with your platform. And I've been having a lot of private conversations about this with friends and family, is that Black men do not see ourselves with range in media and in culture. And I'm a big believer in the importance of media. I believe media and art in particular is a reflection of our society. It's a reflection of what you can and cannot be. It's all the things. It really shapes who we are as a society, as a country.
That's right.
So I think that I value the importance of the art and culture and media. And in media right now, you don't see enough of a variety of Black men. You either see this very hyper masculine Black male, a very aggressive form. He's in the form of an athlete or a form of a rapper, right? Or you see this individual, and I mean this in the best way, when you see a man of the LGBTQAI plus community, it's more of the effeminate version. And that's all you see on media, right? Like you don't see
on media for sure.
A media version art. You don't see Black men with scale and with range, because we all are on the spectrum in one way or another. Like we all have this range, but we're just so pigeonholed into those archetypes of who Black men are.
And we always were, right, Mike? And so then we follow suit, meaning we were by not people colored like us. But then we were so long, we ended up following pigeonholing.
Yeah.
We didn't come to a field pigeonholed.
Yeah.
But then once we learned the construct of being pigeonholed, Willie Lynch was a mastermind and people who thought like him.
Yeah.
Then we continue to pervasively do so. So people will always be like, Omari, how can you love everybody? How could you love the race of another woman? How could you? And I'm like, because I love me.
Yeah.
You actually can't do it if you don't love you. It wouldn't work.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that people who are together with someone who looks like them, which is all I had ever been with in my life, someone who looked like me until I was not. But in being with those women, equally, those Black women will look and go, well, because he knows who he is. And I don't make him lesser because he's now with this, because they knew me to be the same person. I didn't change. I still say nigga. Whether I'm with a white person or not, I still say nigga. I'm a be me.
Yeah.
But it's always giving yourself permission to, again, Mike, to give someone permission. You're giving yourself permission to say, hey, I give you permission to ask me a question. The problem is, Mike, in media, no one's really asking truly, what do you feel? Hey, you group that I'm boxing or pigeonholing, what do you feel? What about you, group? What do you feel? Oh, this is interesting. So the 4 different groups all feel the same common 2 or 3 things. Maybe I should bring them in the same room and get them to converse about what they don't feel that's common. They feel these 4 things that are alike, but what do they don't feel that's alike? There's never a freaking Chris Paul lob of a question that you can slam home the freaking answer and the world gets better. It's not fucking rocket science, bro.
It's not.
It's actually not rocket science.
and we make it so difficult. Even to the point that you're making, a buddy of mine who is in private equity, does well for himself. His son came to him, who's at, let's just call it a top 25 school, and wanted to pursue hip hop. Called his dad up and said, in a real kind of frustration, like, I can no longer pursue hip hop. It's all your fault because we grew up privileged. So I don't have a story to tell. Right.
Wow,
and so he's
abandoned
his pursuits of hip hop. And I talked to his dad, and I was like, let him know that there's so many different ways that you could be in hip hop. But it's to the point that we're talking about how it's just
because you can do spoken word about your story.
Bruh,
you could do spoken word about your disenfranchisement. The kid says, what does the word disenfranchisement mean? Prior to Omari responding, Mike Muse responds. Mike tells him what disenfranchised means. He then goes, oh, I feel disenfranchised. Even though we had gained and not lack, even though I didn't grow up in the Queensbridge Project or in Marcy Projects or Queens around the block from 50 Cent Project, or where Andre and Big Boy grew up, all the way over to where Lil Wayne and them grew up in the wards, even though that's not my reality, or Southside with Rashid or Twista, even though that's not my reality, my disenfranchisement is that my pops has, which I now realize I feel a way about, that becomes your disenfranchisement. Write about that you feel a way about you having, but now you can't do hip hop. Write about that shit. Actually write, I can't do hip hop because Pop had too much. Felt like we was at the high level, but I want to feel low to be able to get it down, want to shovel, want to feel like I'm grounded in whatever I'm trying to sound. You just go wherever you go, and before you know it, there's a place. Hell, Drake didn't have the same story as everybody else, and Drake is one of the greatest to ever do it. Is he not?
Right.
Drake did not have the same story, and he's telling his truth, and we all are left to go, well, I guess we have a volume called Drake for the rest of our days on Earth. And for the rest of his days on Earth and beyond, Drake's music will pervasively play, whether you fuck with it or not. He told his story unapologetically. That was true to his story growing up in Toronto, Canada, with a Jewish mama, 4'11", and a cool ass pimp for a father from Memphis. That's a hellified story. So that young kid, I hope he hears this interview. It's being recorded, Mike, and I want you to give him this interview because you shan't put down that which God has put in you because you feel a way about a house or a lifestyle that your parents have granted you, which, by the way, that ain't your world. So whether you feel like your pops is wealthy or not, you ain't the one wealthy yet. That's your pops money. That's your pops money.
It goes to what we were saying earlier in terms of media. There has been enough storylines like that. Black families who are middle to upper middle class,
who are Cosby
right?
kids, and the rapper Malcolm Jamal Warner, if he actually was Theo, came out of that rapping after being a Cosby kid, right? And
we don't see that anymore, and so therefore these kids don't see themselves as that. It's almost, and also too, it's almost as if they're a unicorn, but it's not. Like there's so many Black families who are middle class.
Well, we made more money. We made money.
Not highlighted, and they make them feel bad. So
yeah, because we made money, Mike. The incredible Shaquille O'Neal one day said, we got more millionaires who are Black. We got more. Shit, it's easier to become a billionaire these days, apparently, than a millionaire. So it's a lot of people struggling to get to millionaire, but we have so many brown and black and brown millionaires.
Yeah.
And
it's not highlighted.
It's not highlighted. And our kids speak with an articulation, perhaps, that, as you and I know, was called proper when you and I were growing up. But all of our kids speak like that now in ways that they don't teach street. Only their parents can teach them how to be street by taking them around the street.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. These kids are all going to feel like him, because all of them got Pookie from everybody's respective hood. Pookie got a cell phone. Mike, you and I didn't have a cell phone at 11. Pookie got a cell phone. So everybody's doing better.
Period. That's it. Omari, I gotta bring it home. So I want to make sure we talk about the album. But we actually have been talking about the spoken word album and everything we've been talking about. Like this is the kind of context audience of the fundamentals of the album. And so these are really just jumping points off of what he's already outlined in the spoken album project. I have a question for you though. This is only one question that I had in mind. Well, the second one wasn't autobiographical, but then the second question is, why do you differentiate so strongly between spoken word and hip hop? Because for me, with your
no longer do I do it.
Okay, well that's it. Okay.
Watch it.
Audience, that's the interview. God bless. Good night. Dude, I was getting so frustrated with you. By the way,
that was a great Russell Simmons. That was a great Russell Simmons you just did. Good night. Good night.
Good night, man. I mean, that was my only thing I had for you.
I gotta be honest with you. I gotta be honest, Mike. And then now, all jokes aside, I don't think I was comfortable. I was trying to prove, Clef was on me so hard to find the middle. An engineer of mine named Vex, who came up on the KRS-One, shout outs to both of them. Vex equally said, when you find your pocket, dog. I had done a song with Anthony Hamilton, and he was like, when you find your pocket. I said, what's my pocket? He goes, nobody spits poetry like you. It's crazy. It's almost like rap. It's not spoken word. But it is spoken word. So I said, Kendrick? He goes, Kendrick. I said, Andre? He goes, Andre, for sure. But when you find it, poet MCs, Nas and J. Cole, right? Poet MCs, Nas and J. Cole, Rakim, poet MCs. Big Daddy Kane, MC, who's got a poetic bent to him. Biggie Smalls, more like a Kane. Jay-Z sometimes sounds like spoken word. Say word, Mike. Jay-Z sometimes sounds like spoken word. So when I started to put it all together, Nipsey for sure sounded like spoken word. When I started to put it together, 5 years later, from Vex making that comment and Clef going, bro, you're like a male Lauryn Hill. I said, what do you mean? He said, Lauryn came with poems. He said, but you spit them almost like rap. I said, she was. He goes, no, she wasn't. She was spoken word, da, da, da. Her intonation was different. Her iambic pentameter, her spit was different, though. It was poetic. Yours is almost rap. So once I found the pocket mic, I got good at proving to myself I could rap with the likes of Dave East rapping. I knew that Dave East was a poet when he wrote on a book, but he was rapping. So I said, oh, I'm really into this. I didn't know I had this muscle, this wrinkle called rap. I can rap? Oh, this is crazy. So I went too far with that. Feeling. Not too far with doing it. I went too far with the feeling. Making myself go, poetry is far from over there where I'm rapping with Dave East, because Dave East be rapping. You know, Kane and Clef, they're little, Dave East be rapping. Kendrick be poetry in and out of rap. Dave East be rapping. So being with Dave for 9 songs, I then went, and it took a while. I went, Yeah, but on my podcast, I got him to do a poem. And when he spit it, he had the same feeling that he, oh shit. Let me put the music out finally. And when doing so, let it be a spoken word album, because that's my foundational place. But almost like Kanye found in Donda, let it be about homage to God. Let it be about homage to my journey. Let it be about homage to the family that raised me and to that which I raised in myself. As Snoop said, I'm getting this star on the Walk of Fame. Snoop said, I want to thank myself. So all the shit I went through, and let me pay homage to the tribe I made, and let me pay homage to all the fans who really, really stopped me on the streets, and not for acting, Mike. They go, yo, your poetry. So I said, I got to put it out, and I got to start to understand as they hear it. And this is a rose given to you, Mike. They're hearing hip hop. And Kanye proved that on Donda and 808's Heartbeat. And a lot of his stuff is like, it's all hip hop. Hip hop is everything. And it took me a minute, Mike. It took me a minute, dog. Oh, Jay-Z was all poetry, spoken word, interviews. It took me a minute. I got to admit, I was fallible in that way big time. And I could hear Gil Scott-Heron rolling over in his grave and going, I'm the grandfather of hip hop, dog. So what you do, whether you're holding a note and kind of can sing, you're not Tank, but you can kind of sing. You kind of learned how to rap, but your bass is incomparable spoken word spit. Amalgamating the two or the three all together is absolutely what at nature and core hip hop is, including inviting a cool white boy from Detroit who grew up poor white trash, so they label it, from 8 Mile, named Marshall Mathers, right? Yeah. That's what we are. We are a hip hop community, equally a Black community that has always allowed people a place at the table. We might give you hell while you're at the table, but we will allow you to sit at the table with us and show us and prove us wrong. And I realized that I was part of the table a long time ago, and I needed to embrace it.
I'm so glad you did, because poetry is one of the greatest forms of literature. And hip hop for me is one of the greatest forms and lessons within English literature. And so it's only synonymous that poetry and hip hop is literature, and it's all the same and it's all synonymous. And so I'm so thankful that you have been able to reconcile it finally and call yourself what you are.
Talking to people like you challenge me, Mike. You know, even in your spirit and in the interviews that we have, when I leave, I'm often thinking about your thoughts. There's not a lot of people that make me drive off thinking. It's just not. And I wish more people made me think. And
I'm glad.
Because I'm a thinker, as you know. So you leave me going, oh, I didn't think about that one. And the last time we interviewed, I thought, that's interesting. So when people can leave me thinking that's interesting, when Big Daddy Kane stopped me in my tracks with, oh, genius is not to be understood. He said it almost flippantly, like, nigga, what don't you know? Yeah. You're stupidly gifted. Oh, they ain't supposed to understand. Nina Simone said it best. Misunderstand me now.
Yes.
She said it. Like, I had to embrace it. You know.
You did. Omari, brother, that's our time. I love you.
Thank you, bro. I love you back.
Proud of you. Thank you for
I'm proud of you,
showing up and showing us what permission can look like. And letting us see your thoughts in action. I think that's beautiful. We can see a person's thoughts in action. Ladies and gentlemen, please make sure you go out and get this album. 2540 Days is out now. It is either spoken word
and it's spelled that way.
I don't know.
Who knows? But it's spelled that way on purpose, Mike. It's spelled that way on purpose because there's the question, right? Are we in a daze or are we climbing out of a daze? Like, what are we in?
That's it. I think that is what Spike Lee was getting at with School Days, right? And exactly how he did that.
That is what he was doing. So that's a shout out to Spike. And you saw Pain is Power that I did with Dave East, Jazzy Armour, and Chetty. So when I did Pain is Power, the cover was a shout out to my first boss. My first boss in life is Spike. So that was a shout out to him to say thank you.
That's amazing. Omari, I love you, brother. Go be great.
Ladies and
gentlemen, thank you for another conversation.
God bless you, man.
Until next time, audience. Peace.